Hare Krishna everyone, welcome back to the reading of Dialectic Spiritualism, a Vedic View on Western Philosophy by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So, we're reading the last chapter of the book today entitled Carl Jung. Presently this book is published under the name Beyond Illusion and Doubt. Okay, so starting. Carl Jung, 1865 to 1961, was a Swiss student of Freud's, who broke with his teacher and began his own school of psychiatry. He is best known for his work in exploring the unconscious and for championing the importance of philosophy, religion, and mysticism in understanding the human mind. Here, Srila Prabhupada makes clear that although many of Jung's conclusions concerning the soul, God, and consciousness were correct, his lack of a self-realized guide ultimately left Jung frustrated in his spiritual search. Disciple. Jung criticized Freud in this way, quote, "Sexuality evidently meant more to Freud than to other people. For him, it was something to be religiously observed. One thing was clear. Freud, who had always made much of his irreligiosity, had now constructed a dogma. Or rather, in the place of a jealous God whom he had lost, he had substituted another compelling image, that of sexuality." Srila Prabhupada. Yes, that is a fact. He has taken sexuality to be God. It is our natural tendency to accept a leader, and Freud simply abandoned the leadership of God and took up the leadership of sex. On the other hand, if we accept the leadership of God, of Krishna, our life becomes perfect. All other leadership is the leadership of Maya. There is no doubt that we have to accept a leader. Although Freud would not admit it, he accepted sex as his leader, and consequently he was constantly speaking about it. Those who have taken God as their leader will speak only of God and nothing else. Such an important point. Jivera Svarupahaya Krishnera Nitya Dasa. According to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy, we are all eternal servants of God, but as soon as we give up God's service, we have to accept the service of Maya. Disciple. Jung sees the mind as being composed of a balance of the conscious and the unconscious or subconscious. It is the function of the personality to integrate these. For instance, if one has a strong sex drive, he can sublimate or channel it into art or religious activity. Srila Prabhupada. That is our process. The sex impulse is natural for everyone in the material world. But if we think of Krishna embracing Radharani or dancing with the gopis, our sex impulse is sublimated and weakened. If one hears about the pastimes of Krishna and the gopis from the right source, lusty desire within the heart will be suppressed. and one will be able to develop devotional service. Disciple. This would be an example of what Jung would call integration or individuation, whereby the energies of the subconscious sex impulse are channeled into conscious, creative activity directed toward God realization. Srila Prabhupada. What we must understand is that Krishna is the only Purusha, the only enjoyer. If we help him in his enjoyment, we also receive enjoyment. We are predominated and he is the predominator. On the material platform, if a husband wants to enjoy the wife must voluntarily help him in that enjoyment. By helping him, the wife also becomes an enjoyer. Similarly, the supreme predominator, the supreme enjoyer, is Krishna. And the predominated, the enjoyed, are the living entities. When the living entities agree to help Krishna's sex desire, they become enjoyers. Disciple. What is meant by Krishna's sex desire? Srila Prabhupada. You might say sense enjoyment. Krishna is the supreme proprietor of the senses. And when we help Krishna in his sense enjoyment, we also naturally partake of that enjoyment. The sweet rasagulla is meant to be enjoyed. Therefore, the hand puts it in the mouth so that it can be tasted and go to the stomach. The hand cannot enjoy the rasagulla directly. Krishna is the only direct enjoyer. All others are indirect enjoyers. By satisfying Krishna, others will be satisfied. Upon seeing the predominator happy, the predominated become happy. Disciple. Psychologists say that quite often the subconscious is acting through the conscious, but that we do not know it. Srila Prabhupada. Yes, the subconscious is there, but it is not always manifest. Sometimes a thought suddenly becomes manifest, just as a bubble will suddenly emerge in a pond. You may not be able to understand why it emerges, but we may assume that it was in the subconscious state and suddenly became manifest. That subconscious thought, which is manifest, does not directly have any connection with one's present consciousness. It is like a stored impression, a shadow, or a photograph. The mind takes many snapshots, and they are stored. The mind takes many snapshots, and they are stored. That goes into the subconscious. Disciple. Jung could see that the soul is always longing for light, and he wrote of the urge within the soul to rise out of darkness. He noted the pent-up feeling in the eyes of primitive people and a certain sadness in the eyes of animals. He wrote, unquote, "There is sadness in animals' eyes and we never know whether that sadness is bound up with the soul of the animal or is a poignant message which speaks to us out of that existence. Srila Prabhupada. Yes. See, he agrees with every single point so far. Yes. Every living entity, including man, is constitutionally a servant. Therefore, everyone is seeking some master, and that is our natural propensity. You can often see a puppy attempt to take shelter of some boy or a man, and that is his natural tendency. He's saying, "Give me shelter, keep me as your friend." A child or a man also wants some shelter. Shelter in order to be happy. That is our constitutional position. When we attain the human form, when our consciousness is developed, we should take Krishna as our shelter and our leader. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells us that if we want shelter and guidance, we should take his. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. This is the ultimate instruction of the Bhagavad Gita. Beautiful point. We should stop here at this beautiful point. Jai. I love this point. Yes, we're going to read Bhagavad Gita after few more books. Jai. So thank you so much for tuning in today. The link to this book is in the description. Please check out our website, shravanamdiaries.com, and we shall see you next time. Haribol. Hare Krishna.